This is Kenya's biggest conversation. It's the Situation Room. We are broadcasting from Nairobi to Mombasa to Kisumu to Eldoret, Nakuru, Nyeri, Malindi, and worldwide on Spice FM KE, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. And now, for the next 2 hours, we are also live on KTN Home. A very good morning to our friends on KTN Home. Welcome to the show. In the studio this morning is Eric Latif Nduoko. Our colleague CT Muga is not around. He's unwell today. We hope that he gets better. He'll be back with us tomorrow. And we're joined by our guest host for today, Ruben Kigame, our listener from Eldoret. Ruben.
Hey.
Once again, karibu sana.
Nashukuru. It's nice to be here.
It's good to have you. It's good to see you.
Always listening to you in the mornings. I like the newspaper segment, the analysis. I get.
We'd have wanted you to be here so that we can analyze the papers.
Are you sure?
So we could analyze the papers together.
Well, another time, another place.
That's true. That's true. What do you do, Ruben?
Well, I don't even know, Eric. I wear many hats. I am a teacher, and I've been for a while. I taught in high school, and right now I teach at the Africa International University. And I am also some kind of serenader. So I make people feel good. I make music. I'm a producer and a performer. I write songs. I'm also quite interested in media. So, like an African pot, I guess I sit on three stones.
Everything.
Yeah, sort of. And I think that's a nice way to live. When you're bored with one thing, you can always
have the other thing that
Go
you
to
can
something
do.
else.
Yeah, but I'm also a full-time father and husband. Live in Eldoret. Very excited to be here.
Is it possible to be a part-time father and husband?
I think so, especially the absentee ones.
Well, nowadays, I think so. I think,
it?
look, in this day and age, it's absolutely possible to be anything.
Yeah, and in this day and age, you even have to define, if your wife is male or female.
Oh, yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm married, and my wife
Yes.
is female.
Yes.
Sort of, yeah, anything
I'm
goes.
married to a female human being.
Yes,
Or to a male human being.
and it's getting worse. I think there was even a discussion as to whether you could refer to your daughter as daughter.
Oh, come on.
Oh yeah,
Gotten there.
yeah. And then in the UK now, I think for some years now, you can't even say my patient as a doctor. You would need to say my client.
Oh,
Political correctness. It's getting out of the window.
okay. Let's start with today's proverb. And today's proverb is a Kenyan proverb. It says, he who refuses to obey cannot command. He who refuses to obey cannot command.
Who came up with that?
A Kenyan somewhere.
Some Kenyan muhenga.
I don't know what he was thinking. Many times I look at the Proverbs of Solomon, and I think because his parents had such a rough family life, he would probably be watching his parents and then come up with a proverb: better to live at the corner of a roof somewhere than to live with a contentious wife. I think he's watching his father David probably.
So they're all informed by, what he was seeing around him.
Situations. I think proverbs are created by circumstances.
That's true. That's true. Ruben, you're a commentator on many matters. One of the things that you did not say that you do is also a big consumer of current affairs.
I've always been, I guess,
And not just a passive consumer, but a very active
very
one.
active consumer. I was actually at the Sabasaba rally way back when the multi-party.
The first one.
Yes,
In,
so the
1990.
Shikukus, yeah, with Shikuku and Rubia and the rest. I came from Maryhill, where I was teaching at the time,
Yeah.
because right from my student days, I have been very interested in how the world goes.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And so current affairs are like spare food. Yeah.
The other day we played a clip of yours and where you were talking about the politics, saying, is this the time to push the BBI? Is this the time to advance this particular narrative?
Yeah.
Then now looking at what's happening in politics, you also still feel very strongly about the kind of political noise that we have in the
Yes.
country.
Yes.
And how especially politicians are behaving in public.
Feeling strongly is an understatement. Actually, I used to think that common sense was common. I don't think it is. When you look at the way we set priorities, especially in this country, sometimes you wonder, does anyone pull together the brain and the heart? Yeah, when it comes to, for example, what the country is going through now, what we've been through the last 1 year or so with COVID, if you see somebody fronting a referendum, like 1 year before elections, you want to ask whether they are in their right minds. Yeah. On the other hand, you have issues that are a matter of life and death. So you have medical workers working in environments that are not really good. You have a lot of people losing their jobs. And you'd think that a responsible government would be addressing those kinds of things.
Yeah.
So when you have BBI, for example, going before everything else, and of course the referendum is going to spend lots of billions. You know, I used to know millions when I grew up. Now we even tease around trillions, you know.
Yep.
So when you look at the sums of money that are being planned to be spent, and you look at the debt burden, you look at what's going on in terms of the corruption, how much we're losing, you could tell a good leader from what priorities they set. And the current leadership has all their priorities wrong. Absolutely wrong. And you know, once you have priorities wrong, the one thing that disappears very quickly is an ingredient called trust.
Yep.
If you lose trust in anyone or anything, you really cannot move them with you. It's impossible. You know, even in a simple situation like a home, if your parents are always, you know, spending money badly, and you can't have your school fees paid, you say Papa and Mama, you know, have the wrong priorities. So once you lose trust, and we have lost trust, that is not debatable in this country. So that anything anybody tells you today in terms of, you know, this is what we're planning, this is what we want to do for you, you say, really? You know?
question it.
Yeah, yeah.
But Ruben, I mean, the explanations have been given over and over again, especially by proponents of what we are seeing today.
Yeah.
That what this initiative would essentially do,
BBI?
yes, is to bring the country together, to make provision for these things that we see are lacking.
Big
and
lie.
that's what it would do.
I mean,
What do
okay.
you have to say about that?
Bring the country together. Do you need a document to bring a country together?
Well, it would appear so.
You know, like I said, if you lose trust, anything you tell us, even if it was good, would look suspicious. However, BBI in and of itself has a lot of dismantling rather than building. And then at the same time, you want to ask the question, what is it they couldn't do that they say they would like to do with a document in place? I look at someone like the deputy president, for example. You know, he is at probably the highest office in the country he could get at this time. And so very close to the presidency, very close to decision making. And so if it's job creation, if it is the improvement of the lives of people, he has the capacity, and his hands are on the reins of power. He can actually move stuff now. So if you know, like 2 years before he has to leave the office,
Yeah.
he says, my hands are handcuffed, I can do nothing. You know, you begin to ask the question, can I trust him when he actually has the full control of this country to do what he says he wishes he was in power? How much more power would anyone need than a deputy presidency? to be able to change stuff. MPs and senators and governors, I mean, all these people are in positions of power to change a lot of what they're saying they will do if BBI passes. So instead of talking, they should be changing stuff. We should be seeing, that job creation. And like I tweeted recently, it's not the business of government to create jobs. It is the business of government to create the environment in which I can go and create a job.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if I create a job, I create a job for, jobs for other people as well. But if, for example, you cannot talk about energy costs, you cannot talk about, opportunities to go to school or train.
Yeah.
You cannot talk about all these preliminaries. Then you cannot convince me that if I give you power, you'll do anything. If I give you so much power and you can't use it to do what you're able to do, if I give you more power, guess what? I don't think you'll be able to do what you say you'll do.
I think the other argument is that with BBI, you're trying to harmonize the existing laws, bringing some of them into some new alignment so that it makes it easier for a government to deliver.
What do you mean,
Or, for
Eric?
example,
I have no
things-
idea what you're talking about.
I have no idea either, but this is what I hear.
Nobody has any idea because we have the best constitution on the continent, if you asked me. I mean, it's not perfect, but it is very dynamic, very inclusive. The real monster in the room, the elephant in the room, is chapter 6 of the Constitution.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to look at that. If we looked at chapter 6, just chapter 6, a lot of what we are saying we need to fix would be fixed.
Yep.
Because it's all about our value system, which has gone to the dogs. Last week you are covering the story of Judy, who was thrown out of a matatu.
Yeah.
What does it take for NTSA or anyone in the Department of Traffic or Transport to do something to streamline everyday transportation? Do you need to change the Constitution for that?
Well, no,
absolutely not.
no.
What does it take to criminalize hate speech? With NCIC in place, what else do you need? We have too many institutions, too many commissions, too many everything except values.
So how do we then get the values up and front and center?
So-
how do we bring that as the main conversation of our country and say that, if we fixed our value system, then we'd also be able to use the constitution that we've given unto ourselves and the laws that we've made and passed, and we can then use them to help us. How?
So first, let me demystify values. Values are not something you go to buy at a shop. It's not something costed. It's not a degree you study for. It is something that is right here at your heart. It is about the simple rule of right and wrong, the law of conscience. And that is not taught. That is not acquired. That you don't go to school for. And so the thing is, everybody has access to values. All of us. And it begins in the home. That's why if we are thinking about fixing the nation of Kenya, it's wrong to start from State House. We must start where we are in our homes. Because a lot of us that are crying for, Uhuru or Raila or Ruto to do what is right for Kenyans are not doing right for our families. Absolutely not. We begin very early to lie to our children. Do this, I'll do this for you. Yeah, it's built. You stop crying and I'll buy you a sweet or something. So it starts early. I knew that something was wrong with our value system when I was looking for direction to go to speak at a school out of Eldoret. It's called Kamagut, and I lost direction. I didn't know where it was. I didn't have GPS. So we asked some children, where is Kamagut? It says, you're pretty close. Just drive on 50 meters, you'll be there. These are 8 or 9 year olds.
Right.
They said, thank you very much, I said to them. say, mzee na unatuacha hivyo.
Wow, yeah.
You know, are you just going to leave us like that? I told you directions. Why don't you give me something? So if an 8-year-old is telling me that,
Toa ya macho.
ndio, I'm telling you, ni kubaya. Yeah, and it's lying to our spouses, lying to our children, taking advantage of each other as colleagues, it's all over.
But I think this is split here when we are looking, because we keep asking ourselves, because we seem to be stuck on this one place over and over again. You see so many things going wrong in the country, and you say, okay, then this is all the results of, and these are the fruits of bad leadership.
Yeah.
Right. On the other hand, you say, well, all right, there's certain things that you do on an individual basis that probably we shouldn't. Not probably,
yeah.
Not probably.
Yeah.
We shouldn't be doing.
Telling the truth is good, whether you're in private or in public.
Right.
Yeah.
So then you say the fish rots from the head. Then you say at the same time we need to be working on ourselves on the tail, right? So
No.
Is it a mix of the two, or is it one that needs to be sorted
it's
out
almost-
through and through?
it's
And how
almost
can
that-
we get people to get to that point where they say, I need to start with me and make sure that everything on my end is sorted out, and then we'll just see some kind of magical happening where people then are behaving in the way in which they should, and then this will rise to the top?
You can't force people to act right. So that's why I'm saying that, and I'm sure it's been overstated that we get the leaders we deserve because they come from among us. So we should never be surprised if at the top something goes wrong, if the whole system is rotten. If we don't love the truth, let's not expect that somebody at the top will love to tell the truth. And, the rush is always, churches, you're not doing right. Parents, you're not doing right. We are always looking at what we are not doing. What about what we can be able to do? Where do we start? So
What can we do?
what can we do?
I mean, that's a question for a lot of people
Yeah.
who would be looking at a situation going out of the window
Yeah.
and say, okay, me in my little corner.
So
what can I
here's
do?
the thing. Here's the thing. We can break this down. If, for example, we know that we have a traffic situation in this city, and we know for sure that something like overlapping is wrong. When somebody overlaps, what do?
You go around and cut them off.
Yeah, it's man
that's
eat man. So if we can't fix that ourselves, let's never expect that we can fix our impunity. That is where it starts. Are we angry enough to tell that tout that you can't do this? You can't throw this lady out, And if you do, we are all, acting now.
Yeah.
If we can't act on a matatu, we can't act at Parliament. We can't.
That's true, Ruben. But you know what? We can't discount the place of leadership in this. All these things require you need someone to bail the cat.
So here is the thing. You guys have started the conversation as a station. You don't have to start this conversation. You've chosen to start. So you've taken your position. So if everybody else did something, we would actually begin to see a trickle-down effect. Because you're not in State House, but you are changing lives. You're changing the narrative. And media, everybody blames media. But, media is not a star out there. Media is people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the medium is the message. McLuhan said that. So if we are going to change situations, instead of beginning by pointing fingers, we need to check, where are we in the narrative?
Right.
Where are we? Right. So if I can't fix my family, then I cannot fix a country. When we go to 2022 elections and we know this guy has been stealing bolts and nuts from a railway line,
Yeah.
then if you give him power, he'll steal the whole railway line. And we know
steal the
them.
wagons, yes.
We understand. If somebody can't run, a constituency fund, and you're going to entrust them with a nation's budget,
Yeah.
it won't work. We're expecting too much. So we know these people, and Kenyans, I think I need to say this as a Kenyan, we are hypocritical. We know what is wrong. We don't do what is right.
We know what is wrong as long as it's somebody else who is committing the wrong.
And we like to be told the truth. Do we like to tell the truth? Yeah.
Hardly. We don't like to take the truth.
It doesn't feel good,
Yeah.
The doctor may have to amputate your foot to save your life.
Mm-hmm.
Are we ready for an amputation? When I was listening to your headline this morning about the JSC talking about what's going on in the courts. All these standards, you in Kenya, you could use the law to break the law.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So next to a value system is really the place of the law in the society. And the law makes us all equal. We are all equal under the law. The problem is that there are some who are more equal than others, Animal Farm. Yeah.
That's very true.
That's the problem. So,
But we elevate those who are more equal than others. We are actually the ones who place them there. See, that's the thing. It's not like they rise and they make themselves up there. No.
the problem is not placing them there. The problem is we don't like taking them out of there.
Yes.
If you ask me right
Which
now,
means we are
as a
comfortable
nation,
with them being there.
As a nation, we should be impeaching the entire government right now. I mean, Uhuru, Raila, Ruto, they should all get out of office.
Raila is not in government.
He is part of government. There was a handshake, you remember.
Yeah.
So-
that didn't bring him to government.
He will tell you he's not in government, but he calls the shots. So, and you should have asked him when he was here a few weeks back. So the point is where we are as a nation, where we take citizens to a point of being beggars for life, for dear life.
Yeah.
Anyone, who said these people are more Kenyan than us? So we elevate people to positions, and it's about responsibility. So when they fail in responsibility, we are left there crying and looking at each other. Now what do we do? What do we do? I mean, but the Constitution tells us we can do something.
Yeah. Yeah.
The problem is that the same Constitution is being denatured as we watch
We are
in
cheering.
the name of BBI. How do
cheering.
you change, was it 18, out of the 18 chapters, you're changing about
There are
9 or...
amendments to the Constitution.
Can you imagine that?
Joining us this morning, our guest host is Reuben Kigame, our listener from Eldoret. He is a musician and a political activist, the man who was there in the Sabasaba rallies of 1990. So you can imagine how much invested he is on these particular matters. When we talk about our country, Ruben, we often like to define ourselves and describe ourselves as very religious people. Whether it's Christian or Muslims or Hindu or whichever other, but there is some faith somewhere.
You forget the African traditional
All those as well.
religions.
Yes.
Yeah, they're all in there.
There is some
That's
faith
us.
somewhere that plays a part in our day-to-day life, in how we think, in how we operate.
Yeah.
So how then do you mix that whole strong faith vis-a-vis the behavior of us as a people in terms of our value system, in terms of our election and how we participate in elections, in terms of how we glorify corruption as long as it's working in our favor?
So first, let's demystify religion or faith, because anyone who holds a faith says, I am limited. There is a supernatural creator and mover of things in this world. So you put your trust or dependency, you make your prayers and so on to such a being. We call him God. You may have so many different names. So the statistics show that Africa is a very, very religious continent. In fact, if you're looking at Christianity at all, just by itself, about 600 million people in Africa, of the Christian faith. That's just almost a quarter of the entire Christian population. It used to be that Europe was the most Christianized country, but Africa is now the most. And you have Islam. You know, if you're looking at the East Coast, most of North Africa, so West Africa, Africa is, in the words of Mbiti, notoriously religious. So Mbiti said something. He said, wherever the African is, there is his religion. Now, I say that because it is extremely strange that with the statistics showing that we are a very religious continent, we then dichotomize and say you can be secular at one point and you can be religious at another point. The Muslim knows that you cannot, split.
Separate the two.
Yeah, you can't split your faith from your life.
Yeah.
The Christians, I would say most of Christians would know that. In fact, the people who come up with the narrative of separation are those who want to abuse religion or want to abuse politics. So you create a wedge between how you live every day and how you worship or how you believe. It's impossible. We take our religion everywhere with us. In fact, when you look at Article 8 of the Constitution, Kenya is a secular state. Said who? Who put it in there? Because it may be politically correct to be inclusive, but if today you stood like one time there was a gentleman called Harrison Mumia saying you should remove God from the national anthem, let's say, because it excludes those who don't believe in God. Guess what? If you succeed to remove on the basis of law, you would also be excluding those who believe in a God. So you cannot quite legislate religion, so to speak. Now, so when we come to how we live, whether we should comment on what's going on, I write on Facebook sometimes and people tell me, you're a Christian, you shouldn't talk about these things. Now,
as though being a Christian made you less of a thinking human.
Not even thinking human.
Confine yourself
the
to
issue
matters
is,
of faith.
do they read the Bible? Because the Bible is a very political book. You cannot talk about a king without a kingdom. You cannot talk about right and wrong without, ethics or
right,
morality.
Yes.
Yeah. So whoever comes up with that kind of dichotomy is really on the offside. You take your religion with you. The fact that I insist on the poor being treated right, the fact that I insist on respect for someone like Ndu as a lady, the fact that I insist on people being told the truth is all a biblical, it's all a faith thing. In fact, without faith, you wouldn't have that. So anyone who comes and says you can separate faith and politics is out of their mind. He's completely out of their mind.
Then here's a challenge.
Challenge.
So with all this faith and all these people who practice faith and go to places of worship ever so often, then why do we find ourselves behaving this way? Why is it that then we've gotten to a point where we start questioning, where has the church been as our morals went south?
But Eric, you didn't listen. You didn't listen to yourself when you asked the question. You're basically saying there is faith. There is a right way of doing things. So when people don't do what is right, then we ask why they're not doing what is right.
Yes.
Or we ask why they're not exercising faith.
It's the leadership
No.
of that.
No. The whole thing
Because
is...
if the shepherd is sitting down and is just, feeding on some roast maize, the sheep will go away.
Okay, so that's
The sheep
a
stray.
straw man's argument. The whole thing is not about the leadership. It's about how you live. Because if you live badly, then you also get a bad leader. If you live hypocritical and you ascend into power, you end up being a hypocritical leader. So it's as simple as that. So the issue is that it's not like faith has stopped existing. It's not as if morality stopped. it's because people have failed to be moral. When people fail to be moral, you don't look for the leader. When people fail to be moral, you look for the moral standard.
Right.
Yeah.
And who is this that then guides you in the moral standard? Isn't that the leader? That's what the leader is there for.
No, so first of all, faith is private before it's public. It's first individual before it is corporate. Without individual faith, it's nonsensical to speak about corporate faith. Like if a piece of wood is not lighting and another one is not lighting, you cannot have a fire. So the point is that we usually switch from the real question and then begin to look for solutions where the question is not being asked. So, for example, if you say Kenyans are not moral people, now you don't look at the leaders. You look at the Kenyans.
Yes.
Because it's the Kenyans that are not moral.
Yes.
So from the unmoral or amoral people, then we get amoral leaders. So it means that if you see a country that has gone wrong, you don't then begin to look at State House. You look at the church, you look at the mosque, you look at the family, you look at the employer.
Yes.
You look at people, not the institution.
Yes. But you see, now that's where the other question comes in.
Okay.
So when and where did the rain start beating us? You could say that the rain started beating us because those who were like the true norths in this moral compass stopped being the true north. They started moving west.
So, yeah, well...
So they led us astray.
Hypothetically, that is possible. But here is the question. In a country that is full of impunity, in a country that is full of corruption, there are voices, call them lone voices, that are actually saying something is wrong. The problem is we then say nobody is doing anything. When you have, shows like this one, you have sermons being preached like, my friend was preaching at All Saints Cathedral the other day. The sermons are being preached. The issue is, are we willing to change?
I keep saying that things have not been pushed to the wall just enough. And I think if that's one thing I've said over and over again, that because there's so many things that happen when you get pushed to the wall, you do one of two things. You look inward or you continue pushing outward, right? So it hasn't gotten to the point whereby people need to continue pushing outward.
We got there in 2008.
Get so frustrated that you look inward and say, all right, is there something that I can do to change the situation amongst myself? Because they say, okay, look, to get water to boil, all the little molecules have to get into that action by themselves. And as they do that, nobody then has to tell the water to boil over. It just does it because every little molecule is doing what it ought to do.
It's a physical law.
It's doing what it ought to do to get this boiling situation happening. So what I hear you saying is that if everybody then looked inward and sorted out what they needed to do, this boiling over of a good situation then would come about almost immediately.
If you're talking values, yes. However, if you're talking leadership, then you have to bring those values into leadership. The anger you're talking about, the boiling point that we all should get to, is really about we being squeezed to the corner where we say, you know what, as a Christian, as a Muslim, I must act. And I think we have a good number of people. In fact, let me put it this way. Our leaders are lucky. They are in a place where they should feel lucky that Kenyans actually don't bring an Arab Spring or a Zimbabwe, situation.
Or Orange Revolution.
Yes. So the gracefulness with which Kenyans have approached our leaders, has been probably one of the strongest, one of the best in the world. There are African nations, there are Middle Eastern nations that boiled over, and we know what happened. And we've had nuances of that. 1992, 2007 and 8, we saw what Kenya could be if we didn't do something. And the reason why some of us are shouting, we are making, our voices heard online and even this morning, the reason why we are here would be to sound a warning that 2007 happened right here. It's not like it happened in another country. And we know what kind of rhetoric led to our fighting and killing each other. And we can't then imagine that if we go that same direction, it will not happen. That's why I came out and said, for example, if you came up with something like the hustler narrative, you may have good intentions. But I said in my clip that even the road to hell is painted with good intentions.
Intentions, right.
Yeah. So intentions are not the test of what is right or truth. You may intend what is right, but get misunderstood completely. So, and I think because the advisors of Deputy President are not telling him the truth, they're not telling him the situation on the ground. Maybe they're so much in choppers and the big cars, they're not facing reality.
Yeah.
They're not at the place where a border guy crosses in front of a taxi driver, and this taxi driver is driving a hired car. And so he breaks the law. And when the taxi driver sort of scolds him for doing that, he says, "You Dynasty guys, tukiingia kwa serikali, when we get into government, you'll see, it is happening. It's being said." And when you compare a border guy to somebody who's walking on foot, of course, he's in a dynasty situation.
Yep.
So when does it become dynasty and when does it not? And, right from the deputy president himself, he can paint himself as, being dynasty, but he has the money to dish. He has the status. He has a place that makes it impossible for him to drive that narrative.
Right.
And so I'm basically saying we can't divide a nation and imagine that it will not explode. It happened in Rwanda. People were labeled, and we should have stopped it when it began to be Kieleweke and Tanga. We should have. But we let it run. So somebody comes with another narrative and we don't stop them. It's like it's my right to advance my political career in a particular way. The end result is, look at the fruits. Is it too difficult to coin a slogan or something that will bring people together?
That'll bring people together.
It's
Isn't
not
this
impossible.
one bringing people together? Isn't it making everybody feel like now we have stopped looking at each other as Kalenjin, Kikuyu, Maasai, Luo. We are all looking at each other as Kenyans
as
who
hustlers.
struggle on a daily basis, who wake up on a daily basis. We have a daily hustle. Isn't that bringing people together?
If there was that kind of narrative without the polarization of you
versus.
belong to hustlers and you belong to the dynasty. You see, by dynasty, he means those who have been holding onto and exchanging power on the basis of family.
Yeah.
But what has it trickled down to be?
And who's responsible for changing that narrative? Because like you've said, when it started, this hustler dynasty narrative was about there's a certain group of people who have, been at the helm of power for long.
Yeah.
And they are interconnected. They are, friends. They have grown up together. They have basically enjoyed office. And when they rise, even their children will easily find positions in this same system. Versus the rest of us who do not have access to that. And when we try to get that access, we are blocked. That was the initial.
So
When did that change to boda versus taxi driver?
that is only part of the illustration. When you look at the whole narrative, though, it stretches to village talk. It stretches right to who has a Gorofa house in the village and who doesn't. And it stretches to who, earns 10,000 and who earns, 100 bob per day.
Yeah.
That is what it boils down to.
It does.
And so the question is, and what I'm not sure they are able to see is who really fits where, when. That is the danger of this narrative, because all of us here.
Ruben, I have a problem, and this is not the first time, but I have a problem with looking at where exactly this narrative has taken that turn. Okay? Because at what point does that narrative of there's power is limited to a certain group of people and the rest of the people do not have that access to this power and therefore do not even exercise their own sovereignty, to coming down to wealth and class? Where does power
Eric,
and wealth...
Eric, the narrative should never be struggle for power, because you can only have one president at a time. You can only have one deputy. The issue is, even if you stretch that power, like BBI is saying, you could have two deputy prime ministers. How far can you stretch that? Can you even stretch it to 43? You can't.
No.
So it's not a power thing. And that is why we're saying the narrative is wrong, because it ends up doing exactly what BBI is doing. Polarization. Because even if
solution is not power, then what's the solution? Because
the solution is inclusivism. It's inclusivism and opportunities. It's the simple things that all of them.
And the person who holds the reins of power then is able to exercise that with responsibility.
You see,
and if the accusation is that the person who has the reins of power is not being responsible in how they're using that power,
you talk as if the president rules by himself. The president rules in a committee, in a team. It's a team. It's a team thing. And whatever we are expecting of a president, we should be expecting of a governor. We should be expecting of an MCA. We should be expecting of a CEO. That is where the problem is. Within a company, you could have that dynasty hustler thing. This company has been held by this guy for so long. It's time. What if it's a family business?
Well,
so the issue is not that.
If it's a family business, then that's fine.
Yeah, but the nation is not a family business. That's why the Constitution is really our answer. And changing the Constitution in and of itself to make either a stronger, presidency or, more inclusive, you cannot include everybody. You'll still have the problem. You will never include everybody. So the issue is systems. Can we fix the systems so that anybody from anywhere in this country can ascend to positions on the basis of merit, not on the basis of who knows who or which family they come from?
Now, the thing is, we currently have a set of leaders who are intent on either one, remaining in power, or making sure that whatever circles that they operate within remain in those positions. I really do, and I said it yesterday, I think it has been very clever that Kenyans have been made to believe for the longest time that the development of the country and these systems that you talk about and their development is not the most important thing when it comes to ruling a country. Right. That Kenyans have come to believe that is an individual who sits in a position of power and whatever they say, that is the important thing of the day, which is not.
Yeah, but we have inherited that.
We hear people complaining about this thing every day.
Yeah.
I'm concerned about how my children will go to school. I am concerned about how we will eat today. I'm concerned about how we'll afford a healthcare so that I can go. Those are the systems that we are talking about.
Yeah.
So if you're concerned about those things on a daily basis, you should be more concerned than about how you will bring in individuals who will rule over the affairs that make these systems work.
Right.
For the things that you're concerned about on a daily basis.
So let me break it down here. So the problem is not the right talk, the right systems, it's that we don't follow up on the issue of accountability. So for example, a government tells you in a year we're going to create 500,000 jobs or 1 million jobs, whatever. Or we are going to give laptops to every child. And that's made as a public statement.
Yes.
When those laptops don't come, as Kenyans, we don't get angry enough. Like Ndu was saying, we don't get angry. It's been promised.
It's a joke.
Yeah. So if we bypass that, then of course we embolden evil. We embolden impunity because they can tell you we'll put up a Galana Kulalo project. and it will cost
million
this
acres,
much, and
yes.
and then they'll go borrowing on behalf of everybody, increase taxes and all these things. So because we couldn't stop people from lying to us the first time, we get used to being lied to. So that cannot be fixed by leadership. It will be fixed by us. It can be fixed by us. And if I had nothing else to say this morning, it would be, I would need to just say this one thing. As Kenyans, we need to move to a position where we demand what is ours and what is possible. And the basic thing we should always demand is to be told the truth. That is where it all begins.
Yeah.
Let us bring our leaders to account. And I'm still asking, what happened to the laptops? They could have been very helpful during this corona time. Absolutely. So if we can't ask for them, we can't ask for leadership. We can't ask for good leaders. So we are going to 2022, and they will come around and tell you we'll fix the road, and we will take your children to school. Since 1963,
There'll be a new fund for.
I'm telling you, there will be a youth fund, and as if we've not had youth funds before. So what happened to the other youth fund before you tell us there will be a youth fund? That is where we should go back. Since 1963, we've been told we will eradicate, ignorance, poverty, and disease. How many years later we're still saying we need to eradicate ignorance, poverty, and disease? So can we change tact as citizens and demand first to be told the truth, and stop any politician who tells you they are going to do this for you, they're going to do that. And even worse, stop taking money from politicians in order to buy them a position
So
in
demand
government.
the situation.
Yes, demand change.
the situation whereby I don't have to depend on this 200
Exactly.
shillings or 100 shillings that you bring to me when you come and ask me for my vote.
It-
Demand the situation
Yeah.
where these things are guaranteed.
Yes, I'm no longer even saying take the money and vote differently. I'm telling people, don't take the money
Don't
at
take-
all.
Don't take the money.
Yeah, just tell them, keep your money. Give us the service.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's
So if
indeed.
we can get there, then we'll begin to see some change. If a politician can be stopped from dishing money, guess what? We've made a change.
That's true.
If a policeman can be stopped from taking a bribe, and it begins there. Let's not even go so far. Somebody will board a matatu today, and they will see a policeman pick a bribe, and they'll say nothing. Absolutely. So if we are that powerless there, let's not imagine we'll change
We
things
have
up here.
any power at all. I think it's about time that we all said, give us the truth.
Yeah,
Just tell us the truth. The other question would be, are we ready for the truth?
I am. Really, for nothing
Okay,
else.
okay, hold on.
Yeah.
What truth is this we're talking about?
Truth about everything.
Everything. Yeah.
What are we talking
I
about?
can't give you laptop because
there's no money.
Yes.
Or
Yeah, let's
there's no money
tell
in the
people there's no money
country.
instead of telling them, we're going
We are
to.
not able to fix the education
Exactly.
system because this, that, the other thing. We're not able to give health workers an increased salary. We
Yeah.
are not able to do this.
One of the most
And the truth
humiliating.
about what we actually are able to do. This year, we are able to do 1, 2, 3.
Exactly.
We cannot complete stadia. That one, forget it.
And
we
then-
cannot provide laptops. Won't happen.
Yeah.
But this we can do.
And then let's stop the blame game because, you'll ask your MP or whatever, why didn't you do this? And then they'll say it's somebody else and it is somebody else. And it's that blame game.
Delayed disbursement by the National Treasury.
It's terrible. It's terrible. And so when we look at 2022 in the face, it's truth at all levels. We live as if we do not know that the Madoa language and, the Hustler Dynasty thing cannot divide. We live as if Rwanda is not in Africa, But we never learn. We don't even go to Rwanda to ask, how did you do it?
Yep.
Yeah. If we can get to the point where instead of making useless laws, we could come to a point of making useful laws like decriminalizing, sectarian speech or hate speech. Literally, not making laws to fit ourselves. You see, I heard you talk about the making of a law against this polarization.
Yes.
The question is, why is it coming now? This is something that should be it even gets suspect when you introduce it now, because then somebody will say you are targeting.
It's political play.
Yeah. So let's make laws that are, for everybody and for every time, not for convenience. Yeah.
And let's make laws that are deep enough, because you see, we already have an NCIC Act, okay? But apart from going around the country and conducting sensitization, and for example, NCIC has done a lot, even in Western Kenya and in the Rift Valley, bringing communities together where there is some friction, and they bring them together and they create harmony.
Right.
At that ground level, they are doing something.
But they're
on the
not
political
empowered
front,
enough. Yeah.
on the political front, on saying, we are trying to fight hate speech. We are
Right.
trying to fight this polarization. We are trying to fight this kind of movement by politicians. They have zero teeth.
You
cannot
Eric,
go to court. You can't prove this case. You can't arrest this person. There's nothing much you can do.
You can't
Eric,
even show that you have the muscle.
let me
Nobody
tell
looks
you,
at you and thinks, okay, I
the
won't do this.
day Kalonzo Musyoka told a journalist
Yep.
that by virtue of your name, I know
Your name betrays you.
Yeah, your name betrays you.
Yep.
He should have gone to jail. That is what. But you see, nobody will bring a law to stop him from saying that.
Yeah.
Nobody will follow him up. If I say anything today, I'll be in very quickly. So laws are made for some people, but not others. The day you decide that on national television you're going to speak your vernacular,
Yep.
the editor should tell you, the producer should tell you, no, you can't do that. No.
And that should be clear.
Yeah, and of course, if Uhuru Kenyatta goes to Sagana and says Adoakwa, the next thing, Raila will go to Kisumu and say, my people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true.